Welcome to Have an IPA with a CPA. We're here to share ideas to help you and your business make more money and keep more of the money you make. Hi, I'm Paul Mueller.
And I'm Robyn Pye. Paul and I are CPAs and owners of Mueller Pye & Associates, with offices in Northern Colorado and Katy, Texas.
Today's topic is about what to do with an IRS notice when it arrives in the mail.
Yeah, such an important topic, so we hope you'll find this information useful.
But let's first talk about beer.
All right, tell me what we're drinking.
You and I are at Grimm Brothers Brew House in Loveland, Colorado. Grimm Brothers was the original craft brewery in Loveland, Colorado, and today we're drinking Dragon Bloom.
All right.
This is a foul core beer. It's referred to as a juicy IPA and has a hazy orange texture to it.
All right, it smells delicious,
let's try.
so let's give it a taste. I like
that is really good. That's like almost like an orange juice a little bit. That is really good, yeah. So Robyn, there are a few things worse in life than receiving an IRS letter.
Right.
It's rarely good news. It usually means somebody's going to pay money. It's often hard to read and decipher what the heck those notices say.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Most people get those notices when they come home from work, and it's the last thing you need at the end of the day.
Right.
But before we get into how people should handle those notices with do's and don'ts, let's talk about the different types of notices that do pop up in the mail.
Okay, so typically it's a you owe money reminder. So the IRS has alerted you once that you owe a little bit of money, maybe a lot of money, and they're going to continue to send those notices until they receive a response.
And you know, those reminder notices progressively get a little more terse.
Yes, they do.
First it's like, hey, you owe us money. Second one might be a little more about talking about liens and levies, and so they get a little more terse. So you really do need you really do need to read those ones.
You need to read those. So could be that they're assessing a penalty. Maybe you didn't pay your tax on time. Maybe you underpaid your estimated tax quarterly payments. Things of that nature.
Could have filed the return late, or maybe filed a late election for some reason.
Yeah, maybe they've recomputed your refund or your balance due. Sometimes they have information that perhaps they forgot to give to their tax preparer, and so they'll issue those notices.
So sometimes the IRS knows what we don't know.
Right. Right. Okay. Sometimes they need to verify your identity. And that's always a dreaded notice for a taxpayer to receive, but it's really in your best interest. If the IRS does issue a refund to the wrong person, to somebody that's filed a fraudulent tax return,
or lives overseas,
you're going to go through a very long process. So sometimes they just want to verify that it's you.
And I think we owe a shout out to the IRS. They've really been aggressive about ID protection, protecting people's tax accounts and Social Security numbers. So this is just a step in that process of making sure they're verifying that the return they received really did come from the taxpayer.
Right. They might just need additional information to process that tax return.
I had a client last week that had a notice they forgot to sign their return.
Paper filed.
It was a paper filed return. They forgot to sign it because we're all used to doing e-file tax returns.
Right.
And so the notice kicked back and just said, we just need you to sign.
Or perhaps you claimed a credit and then the credit wasn't attached, the form wasn't attached to the return. Something like that.
They need to do
Something they need to finish processing the return. Another common notice we see is called a CP2000. That's a matching notice. It's a computer-generated notice. So the IRS has a matching system in their computer software, and they will actually match your Social Security number, any documents they receive for your Social Security number, W-2s, 1099s,
K-1s, those kinds of things.
They match that up to what you report on your tax return. And so if there's a discrepancy, they'll kick out a notice and say, hey, we have a dividend 1099 for X Corp, and we don't see that on your tax return.
Now, I don't know what you found, Robyn, but I find about 80% of those notices have errors.
Yes.
And sometimes we might put Fidelity Investments as the payer, whereas the IRS is getting National Financial Services or some totally different name. The dollar amounts are there, and it's the same. It's just the computer's having a hard time matching.
So you just need to respond and let the IRS know. We reported it, here it is, and that's a done deal. Notice of audit, that's
the bad one.
Everybody's least favorite to receive. Different types of audits. It could be just a correspondence audit, which just means they're just going to ask for information by mail.
And you're dealing with a faceless, nameless nobody at a service center.
That's right. Another type of audit is a field audit, which means either they want you to come into their office, or they're going to come to your place of business or your home.
Or to our office.
And that's going to be a face-to-face audit. Could be a limited scope audit or a full scope. Limited scope meaning just they might be taking one particular aspect of your return.
Like a Schedule C for a sole proprietor.
Yes. Or they might say, we're going to audit your entire tax return.
So those are a lot of different notices, and there's probably more that we didn't cover.
Sure.
But talk about the things people should not do when they receive an IRS notice.
Okay, so don't take it personally because it's just from a computer. It's computer generated. Don't throw it away.
Absolutely.
Don't automatically pay what it says.
Because it could be wrong.
Because it could be wrong. And so many times taxpayers do that and then send us the notice after the fact.
We're like, why did you pay that?
Yeah, that notice is incorrect. Don't pay it. Don't call the IRS, at least not right away. Sometimes that's a knee-jerk reaction. Let me call and find out. Really, you need to decipher the notice and figure out what's in there and have a plan before you attempt to call the IRS to resolve it.
And you do need to be careful about what you say.
Absolutely.
Because they are taking notes on what you're telling them, and it's hard to take back something after you already told them. Okay, so those are the don'ts. Okay. What are the do's that people should do?
So read the notice.
Sure.
It might be lengthy and it might be difficult, but read the notice. Send it to your tax return preparer. I think a lot of taxpayers think we automatically get a copy of that notice because we signed the return.
And in reality, we're in the dark.
We don't.
Until the client shares that correspondence with us.
So absolutely send it to us. Be cognizant of the date. There's always a respond by date on the notice. So don't let it sit around for a month. Go ahead and address it. Make sure that you're within that timeline.
And respond in time.
And respond. And then get help. Seek out your tax professional. Send it to us. We've about seen it all. So,
that's right.
So we can help. Watch out for scams. It's unusual to receive a letter in the mail that is supposedly from the IRS but is a scam. But it's very common to get an email that looks like it's from the IRS.
Because it's easy to copy and paste that IRS logo and stick it into an email and make it look like a legit. But as we know, the IRS never initiates contact with a taxpayer by email. That in and of itself is a scam.
Right. If you ever receive a phone call from the IRS, a threatening phone call, we're headed to your place of business, you owe money, and
we have a warrant out for your
arrest. And we've had clients that this has happened to, and it scares them to death, but it's, you got to watch out for it. IRS will never call you and threaten you. It'll always be by mail.
We still have due process.
We still have due process, yes.
Okay, well, that's some really good information. Robyn and I hope you found this information useful. Be sure to send us an email with any comments, questions, or suggestions for future topics. Also, check out our Have an IPA with a CPA YouTube channel for additional topics and ideas. And until next time, Prost.
Prost.